Patty.
Hi, Ray.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you've been on before, right?
I have, yes.
Okay, well, just so we all know who you really are, how long have you been city clerk for the city of Salinas?
I've been working for the city of Salinas since 2008, so I'm going on 10 years already. In September. But with the city clerk's office, I've been there since 2010, started as deputy and promoted to the city clerk position. So in the capacity of the city clerk, it's been officially 8 years.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of council members and different mayors and, you know, different committees and commissions of the city.
I have. There's every even year we have an election scheduled, a general municipal election.
Right.
So depending on the success of the candidates, and if we have council members or incumbent mayors that want to run for re-election, because we don't have term limits, we can have council members that have been there for years, whereas others can serve just their 4-year term.
Right. So there's 7 positions overall for the council, including the mayor, right?
That's correct.
And the 6 are chosen by district?
Correct. So the city council and our elections, because we are a charter city and we have gone through redistricting as a result of the Department of Justice Section 5 mandate, because of our population breakdown, we had to establish 6 districts. Within those districts, we have one council member that represents that community or that individual, those jurisdictional boundaries.
Right.
Which gives us the 6 council members, and our mayor is elected at large. Council members serve a 4-year term, and the mayor is 2-year term. So the mayor's up for re-election every 2 years.
Right. So somewhere around 25,000 people in each district?
It varies.
Yeah,
We have, as an example, District
Supposed to be
1.
fair.
Correct. Correct. And that was the intent of the redistricting, was to have equal representation
Right.
Among the different ethnicities and the population base within our community. Really, we have some districts that have a smaller number of registered voters, and other districts that can have a significant amount. As an example, District 1, usually we have about an average of 1,600 registered voters that show up to the polls.
Wow.
There may be more, but those numbers change. Then we'll have, let's say, like District 5 or some of the other districts can range between 5,000 registered voters to 13, just depending on the size of that specific district. As you're aware, we have some districts that have a lot more housing. Some districts are more commercial based, so it's really dependent on the voter turnout.
Right. So this being an even year, then it's a municipal election year for the state of California. So that includes cities like Salinas, and then what other governments or districts are also electable, have elections this year? So
here in Monterey County, the majority of the cities are even year elections. And actually, as a result of SB 415 this last year, the state of California is moving to even year elections. And that was all with the intent of increasing voter turnout for all elections in general, whether they're municipal elections or state presidential elections or gubernatorial elections. For Salinas, and in this November, we do have a general municipal election. We do consolidate with the County of Monterey. The county will be conducting the election for all the municipalities within the county, but also there's school boards, there's regional boards that may also be subject to election. There's fire districts, so it's not just our election that will be occurring this November.
So normally what we do is we pass a resolution that has to do with the county elections office, and are asking them that we will hold a general election for the city, and then also ask them to conduct the election. Is that correct?
Correct. So in the next month, what we'll be doing is, like you mentioned, taking a resolution to the City Council, authorizing or requesting that the Board of Supervisors for the County of Monterey authorize our Registrar of Voters and the Elections Department to conduct the election on our behalf. I am, and I still remain, as the elections official for the city, so all paperwork that's required for filing will be filed through us. However, the official ballots and signature verification and all that goes into the election process will be conducted by the county.
Right.
So that's the first step. And that will be coming before the council in the next couple weeks. And once that's done, then we can officially move forward with opening the nomination period and following whatever requirements are set out by the election code to start the process.
Well, that's a pretty influential position, being the official election officer for the city. So people better make sure they know who you are if they're running for office or re-election, because you have all the rules and all the requirements, and certain documents need to be filed with you for them to participate or even have a referendum or initiative for inside the city, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we, through the city clerk's office and through our association, we go through a lot of training to become familiar with the elections process.
Right.
You mentioned initiatives and referendums and just the different types of ballot measures that can potentially end up on a ballot. When it comes to the city of Salinas, I serve as the elections official. All that paperwork needs to be filed by us.
Wow.
And one thing to note, and for the general public as well, is it's really important to follow the rules and regulations that are set in place to ensure that it's a fair process across the board. We definitely, are in a position with, as the elections official, and we need to make sure that we're doing our job correctly. So.
Right. Yeah, you don't want any sort of shadows about whether or not the election was conducted appropriately under state and county and local laws, and whether or not you met all the deadlines and all the compliance issues that are part of the election, because it's such a emotional issue when somebody doesn't get elected, or or there's a dispute in the election process. They start looking at how the election was conducted, right?
Correct. We have, you bring up a really good point, because as the elections official, we are responsible for that, to ensure that it is a fair process.
Right.
We can't show favoritism towards one candidate or the other. We obviously work for the council as in our capacity also as the city clerk. We have an obligation to our incumbents as well. However, during the nomination process, all candidates are treated equally. All of them have to go through the same process and procedures to make it on a ballot.
Wow. So you mentioned the training, and we know that state law changes, could be annually, those election laws, because the legislature is almost full-time. They are, quite frankly, full-time, and they always seem to come up with a little twist here and there, or a way to streamline or make elections better. So you have to be trained at least annually. Is that a requirement for the city clerks?
It's not necessarily a requirement. It's definitely continuing education for our profession. The association itself, through the International Institute for Municipal Clerks and the California City Clerks Association, they have ongoing training. And in addition to that, we also work with the county to ensure that we're following any any new county regulations that are imposed with respect to the election process. We do have, our association does put on they call it a new law and election seminar on a yearly basis. And that again is to make sure that everyone's up to speed on any new laws that are coming down in the next year, or whether they're going to pass or not. So we're very well aware as the initiatives and the new regulations are even being drafted. It's just a matter of once we get that, couple hundred-page election handbook
Right.
that we familiarize ourselves with those new
Right.
laws.
Because you have to explain that to the potential candidates and people filing for certain kinds of campaigns. Or,
Correct,
right.
correct. So it's not it's a very fairly seamless process for anyone that's interested in running for candidacy, whether it's any of the council districts that are up for election this year or the mayoral seat. The process is exactly the same.
Okay.
Generally, what will happen, if you would like me to go into a little
Yes,
bit more
please.
detail about
Yes.
that, Ray, I definitely can. So what we do and what we have done these last 2 election cycles is request that candidates or anyone that's interested set up an appointment with our office. And that's
Okay.
primarily just to ensure that we have put sufficient time aside for the candidate to sit with
Right.
them one-on-one and go over all the necessary requirements. What that appointment is set to do is we'll spend about 30 minutes with the candidate. We go over all the rules and regulations, and the last piece of it is we issue them what we call their official nomination paperwork. The nomination paperwork itself is the biggest document that I would say that our candidates really need to pay attention to detail when filling out. And primarily because that's where the candidate will be responsible for going out to the district that they're representing or are interested in representing and obtaining a minimum of 20 valid signatures,
Okay.
but no more than 30 signatures. And when I mean valid, I mean their signatures from registered voters within the jurisdictional boundaries that that council or the candidate is interested in running for or is wanting to represent. So if I'm gonna run for, let's say, we'll say District 3, we need to make sure that those signatures are all gathered from residents that are registered to vote in
Okay.
District 3.
Wow.
We
Right.
have had some situations where, we'll have candidates that fall short of the signatures, but there's a process for that as well. We can always issue supplemental nomination forms, which is why we encourage candidates to come in early and, pull the nomination papers and file early in the event that that situation may occur. The nomination process will open this year on July 16th and will run through August 10th. August 10th is the last date to
And
file
there are no
any.
extensions, right? I mean, you can't file after that date.
Correct.
Right.
No, there's no extensions for any of the candidates. I mean, if you come in at 5, you may be turned away, and
Yeah.
we'll make it clear to the candidates at that point because that
Right.
does not give us sufficient time to transmit all the necessary documents to review and transmit the documents over to the county for
Right.
verification. So.
So there's a fee, right, also to run for office.
So there's a general fee, which is the filing fee, and that's a $25 fee, so it's very minimal. You would think it would be a lot more money, but no. The city doesn't make any money from that, by the way.
And we set that fee?
That $25 fee is actually set by the California Elections Code.
Okay.
The city
So
of
it's a
Salinas
state-
adopts the fee,
right.
but it's a state mandated fee.
Right.
$25, and that's essentially for being able to process the paperwork. And then once that filing fee is paid, then we go through the issuance of nomination paperwork, and then there is an additional fee.
Okay.
However, the fee itself is not optional, but the fee is for a candidate statement.
Okay.
Now, if the candidate wants a statement in the ballot to appear in the voter guide, basically, which outlines their qualifications to run for that specific
Right.
seat, then there is an additional fee for that. The fees can range from $130 to $1,300, depending on the seat that they're running for.
Right.
Those fees are based on the number of registered voters per district.
Wow.
So.
So, talking about fees, in the election and the city asked the county to conduct the election, there is a fee for that, right?
Correct.
And can you explain to us how that fee's set and how we fund that particular fee for each election, whether it's general or special?
Sure. The cost to conduct an election really varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. For the city of Salinas, on a general municipal election, we can average between $250,000 to $350,000, sometimes a little bit more. And it's all dependent on the number of seats that are up for election and if we have any ballot measures or initiatives that are to be placed on the ballot. Essentially, what we're paying for, or what the city's responsible to reimburse the county for, is for all the precincts, for the amount or the money that it costs for the printed material that gets distributed to our residents, and of course just the canvassing of the election following the election. So it's mainly manual labor, printed cost, having the polls open during the nomination period, mailing fees, just a little bit of more administrative cost. The fee is also based, it can range between $6 to $8 per registered voters. With Salinas, with a population of approximately 161,000 people, our number of registered voters is about 56,000. So it's, the goal definitely for our community would be to increase the number of registered voters.
Right. So in the fall of this year, November, specific to council races, there are 4 positions up?
Correct. So we have the council member, so District 2 is up for re-election, District 3 re-election as well, and District 5 and also the mayoral seat are up for re-election.
Okay. So incumbents in the council seat and an incumbent in the mayor's seat.
Correct.
Right. So do we expect anything else from the city side in terms of the ballot issue? Will there be a charter change? Will there be any, projecting out, will there be any initiative? Will there be any referendum? Do you know at this point? Too early to tell?
Too early to tell at this point.
And those have to be filed by July 16th?
The drop dead date with the county to file any request for consolidation, whether it's for an election or for a referendum initiative, recall, is August 10th, the same
August
as
10th,
the correct
end
August
of the
10th.
filing period, right? Okay.
Yeah, usually if it's an initiative, if it's a citizen-run initiative, we recommend for the residents or the voters to start early on that process because there's a lot more that goes into it than just coming to the city clerk's office with thousands of signatures. There's noticing requirements that go into that. There's pre-approval process of the nomination forms or the petition forms. So it's a lot of work. But our office is always there to, at least point the residents and the community to the correct election code or resources so that they can initiate that process. And eventually, we are not their legal counsel, but we can point them in the right direction.
So if you're, say, a citizen of Salinas and you change your address or something changes in your voter profile, you want to correct that or edit your profile or whatever you have on in the record as a registered voter, then that would be through county elections, even though you may be a resident of Salinas, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's the county elections that handles.
Yeah, the county elections department, that's where anyone that's interested in updating their voter information data, or even if they're not already a registered voter, they can pick up the forms through our office or through the Department of Motor Vehicles also issues the voter registration forms. But all those forms do need to get filed with the Monterey County Registrar of Voters. There is the online option also through the Secretary of State of the State of California. You can go ahead and update your voter registration. It's a very seamless process, but definitely residents are encouraged to update that information. We mentioned signature verification earlier, and that's when it really impacts that. So if if residents are not updating, whether it's their signature, the way they sign, if they've moved within the last year and forgot to update the information, which can happen,
Right.
and it's understandable. You know, during a move, we have so much other stuff going on that the last thing we worry about is
You're
updating the
right.
voter registration. But it's very important to do that. Always check with the registrar of voters because there are deadlines for that. So if you want to vote on the November election, as an example, there may still be sufficient time for that. The June election, I'm not 100% sure, but that would be something to check with the county, because for upcoming elections, the deadlines to update that information are a little bit tighter.
Okay, good. So in terms of signs, political signs or similar items, you're not responsible for, giving any advice or opinions about those signs and where they should be located, and in terms of somebody's individual campaign, right?
Correct. So with respect to signage or
Yeah.
political campaign
Right.
signage, there are a number of regulations that govern that. We have, definitely from California Penal Code to
Okay.
California Government Code, that has strict guidelines and requirements with respect to what can show up on
Right.
the signs, even on mass mailings, the use of whether it's, they have to ensure that there's the their political campaign committee ID numbers on some of the mailings that are distributed. So there are a lot of rules and regulations for that. Some are governed by the Political Reform Act and Fair
Okay.
Political Practices Commission. Some are governed by the state, depending on the statute. And then, of course, for political signage, placed within the local jurisdiction, City of Salinas, the City of Salinas does have some strict guidelines for that as well, specifically for elections. So any signage that that can't be placed any earlier than 90 days prior to an election,
Okay.
and must be removed within 10 days following the election. Now, if signs are left out following the election or placed too soon, they are subject to removal by our Public Works Department
Okay.
at the expense of the candidate himself,
Right.
him or herself.
It seems like, just knowing a little bit about those restrictions, that there is a general disregard for, where the placement of signs can be, because it seems like they end up often in the right-of-way, which is not, allowed under the election and campaign laws.
That's correct. And that's one of the things we struggle with on a yearly basis, even if it's not a city municipal election. But, we do encourage candidates or even proponents of initiatives to make sure that they check with the county to see what their guidelines, their regulations are on the county side, but also on the city side. A lot of the times, the county will just say, well, you need to check with the City of Salinas, or you need to check with whatever other jurisdiction you're going to be placing your signs in. But there definitely needs to be some consistency and regard for the law itself. It's, quite frankly, it's a little unfair for our public works staff to have to go out there and collect signs that are placed on a public right-of-way. We constantly are, encouraging our residents to take pride in their properties, to, ensure that there's no blight around their community. And if we have candidates placing signs where they're not supposed to be placed, and with not adhering to city code or county regulations, then that's not a very good practice, in my opinion.
Well, I think we all agree. I mean, the right-of-way is owned by the public, by the community, and so we need to keep it blight-free.
Correct.
Those signs create a lot of blight, and oftentimes campaigns seem to forget after elections that they need to collect their signs.
Collect their signs. That's correct.
Even the ones that are down all over the ground, they need to collect.
Correct.
So that's good to know. The elections that are coming up, so there'll be a city slate there might be some countywide issues, and then there's some state issues, right? And there could be
Correct.
federal issues.
Mhm.
And when you get the ballot in the mail, usually, it has all that in one ballot, essentially.
The residents will, or
Right.
the residents and registered voters will receive their ballot, and it can vary from one ballot sheet. Usually, it's about a legal size
Right.
page,
Right.
front and back. It could be two. Sometimes it could be three. It just depends. But
Right.
it's really all dependent on the number of candidates, initiatives that are out there.
Okay.
For the city of Salinas, as an example, we've had years where we have, for a total of 4 seats, we have maybe 15 to 20 candidates
Wow.
total. So obviously, the more candidates you have, the more space it'll take up on that ballot sheet. But yes, you're correct. Residents will receive one envelope if they opt for the mail-in ballot, or when they go to the voting polls, they'll have multiple. It could be multiple pages that they go through to cast their votes.
Right. So, again, for the public that wants to know more about the election process, or for potential campaigns, or people that want to be candidates, they should contact your office as early as possible. And what's the best way? Through the web, through a phone call,
Yeah, if for anyone interested in running or participating in this upcoming municipal election, which is taking place on November 6th of this year, the nomination period will open on July 16th. Candidates are encouraged to definitely contact our office as early as possible. We will have a candidate handbook or guidelines available on our website, but definitely contact our office, City Clerk's office, at 831-758-7381, and either I can assist or our Deputy City Clerk, Elizabeth Soto, is also available to answer any questions.
Oh, great. You'll probably have a lot of questions this year.
We will.
I
Elections is always a busy time of year for
Right.
us, but it's something different for us
Right.
because we only do it on even number years.
Right.
It definitely gives us the opportunity to freshen up our handbook,
Right.
get familiar with any new regulations,
Right.
and definitely meet people along throughout the process. It's a testament to our community and the election process itself. So.
Right. Well, this has been very good, very helpful, very educational, and you have a very good knowledge of and expertise of this area. I've seen it, and it's so critical, that people don't see the behind the scenes and all the requirements and compliance you have to have with elections, and keeping records straight and making sure certain documents are filed with the state, 700 forms, and finishing your ethics training, etc. Lots of detail and a lot of documentation, and so congratulations on the carrying out a very important but well carried out job.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work, but definitely it's something that we take pride in, and to ensure that we're in compliance with all the regulations that are set. So,
Great. So it's been fun having you on the show again. We'll
you.
talk to you after the election so we can talk about the results.
The outcome. That's
Right.
correct. Well, thank you, Ray.
Oh, thank you, Patty, for being here.